In the quiet village of Umudike, where the morning mist floated gently above the river, and the sound of pestles echoed like music, life moved with the calm rhythm of dawn. Women hummed as they pounded yams for their husbands. In the heart of this peaceful village stood the palace of King Onovo, a proud, tall structure with walls that bore the marks of generations past. Within those walls lived the pride of the kingdom, Prince Anayo, the only son of King Onovo and Queen Ifeoma. From childhood, Anayo was everything a prince should be: graceful in his walk, gentle in his words, and wise beyond his years. He bowed before the elders, greeted everyone with respect. Whenever he smiled, it was as if the sun itself shone brighter over Umudike. He was a boy who carried the warmth of the land in his heart. Mothers prayed that their sons would grow to be like him. Maidens dreamed that one day the gods would choose them to be his bride. But while laughter and praise surrounded him, there was something the world did not see: a quiet burden. When the songs of admiration faded and the crowds returned to their homes, Anayo would sit alone and ask himself why he bore such a burden that he did not choose. A question no one has ever dared to answer. He wanted to be the prince the people saw: strong, confident, unbothered. But inside him was a question that had no answer, a fear that had no voice. And though Umudike slept peacefully every night, in the heart of each beloved prince there was no peace. As the years went by, the time came for Prince Anayo to take a wife. It was the hope of the entire kingdom, for a prince's marriage meant the promise of an heir, and a celebration that would unite the people once again. The king summoned the palace matchmakers, wise men who knew the customs of old. They were sent to villages far and near to find maidens of beauty, virtue, and good family background. Before long, the palace courtyard was filled with music and laughter, as the maidens of Umudike and beyond came dressed in their finest wrappers and beads, each hoping to catch the eyes of the prince. The first maiden was the daughter of a wealthy chief. She entered the palace shyly, her eyes lowered, her hands trembling slightly as she knelt before the prince. Anayo smiled gently, as he always did, his voice calm and respectful as he greeted her. For a moment, she seemed pleased. Her smile widened, her eyes softened, but then, suddenly, her face froze, her smile faded, and her hands began to shake. Without a word, she stood, gasped softly, and ran out of the hall. The prince stood speechless. The next day, another maiden was brought, and then another. Each time the same thing happened. They would arrive, cheerful and hopeful. But within minutes, fear would take over their faces, and they would flee, as though they had seen something they could not explain. At first, people thought it was a coincidence, perhaps shyness or bad luck. But as it continued, the whispers began to grow louder. The palace elders gathered in secret, trying to understand what was happening, but none of them could proffer a solution to it. Prince Anayo was troubled, but he tried to laugh it off, to pretend it did not hurt. But each rejection cut deeper than the last. Every time a maiden turned and fled, he felt a piece of his confidence fall away. He began to avoid the gatherings where maidens danced before the young men. He stopped joining the evening conversations by the fire. Even his friends noticed the change. His laughter became rare, his eyes distant, and so the mystery grew. How could a man so perfect, so gentle, be the one every maiden feared to marry? No one could explain it. The prince was born with a strange condition that the people of Umudike has never seen. He was born with both the marks of a man and a woman's private organ. Prince Anayo wanted to love like everyone else, not arranged, not forced, but real. Yet, he knew what would happen once the truth came close. When each maiden saw that part of him that was unlike any man they had ever known, their eyes filled with confusion, then horror. They ran, not because he hurt them, but because their minds could not accept what their hearts had not been taught to understand. The king grew restless. The queen prayed every night, asking the gods to send light into her son's life. And just when hope seemed to have thinned like morning mist, a new name began to spread through Umudike, a maiden unlike others. Her name was Neoma. She was not born of wealth or status. She was the daughter of a humble healer, known for her calm spirit and wisdom beyond her years. She did not wear the finest wrappers or dance with the loudest laughter, but those who met her always said the same thing. There was peace in her eyes. And it was this peace that was about to find its way to the heart of a prince who had forgotten what peace felt like. The day Neoma first stepped into the palace courtyard, the sun was gentle, the kind that rested softly on the skin rather than burned. She came not in fine garments, but in a simple blue wrapper and a coral necklace that once belonged to her late mother. Her father, the village healer, walked beside her, head bowed in respect as the palace guards let them in. She did not look around in awe like others before her. She moved with quiet confidence. Her gaze was steady but kind. Inside, the queen sat waiting. When Neoma bowed, the queen's heart stirred in a way it hadn't in years. "You may rise, my daughter," she said softly. The king studied the girl with cautious interest. "So this is the healer's daughter?" the king asked. "You know why you are here?" Neoma nodded. "Yes, my king. I'm here to meet the prince." Her voice carried no fear, no nervousness, just a quiet truth and a quiet calm. When Anayo entered, he expected the same thing that always happened. Polite smiles at first that melted into terror later. Kind words that turned to trembling. But Neoma did not flinch. She turned and met his eyes fully. For a moment, the horse seemed to be still. Then she smiled, not a forced smile, not the kind born of fear or duty. A small, honest smile that reached her eyes. "Your Highness," she said to the prince, "I'm here to be your bride. If I found grace in your sight, my prince, I will love and stay with you forever." Anayo blinked, uncertain how to respond. He was so used to distance that the warmth in her words unsettled him. But then he smiled back, a shy, almost forgotten smile. That evening, they walked through the palace garden together, speaking quietly about life in the village. But deep inside Prince Anayo, the secret still waited, that strange, humiliating truth that had driven every maiden away. He could not tell her yet. He could not bear the thought of seeing that same fear in her eyes. Days passed. Neoma remained calm, unshaken. She visited the palace often, helping the queen in her herbs garden, speaking gently to the servants. Even the king, once skeptical, began to hope. He called for the elders, saying, "Perhaps the time had come to plan the long-delayed royal wedding." But Anayo hesitated. Something inside him still feared the moment she would see him for who he truly was. The prince with a hidden cause. And so, one moonlight night, as the river shimmered under the stars, he made a decision. He would tell her everything. He found her sitting in the palace courtyard. He sat beside her, his heart pounding. "Neoma," he said, "there is something you should know before you decide to stay close to me." She turned her face calm. "Then, tell me, my prince. I'm ready to listen." He hesitated, looking down at his hands. "I have tried to love, but every woman who comes near runs away. I was born with something I do not understand. I was born with both male and female private organs." For a moment, silence settled between them, the same silence that had followed every confession beside this one. But this time, it did not end in running footsteps. Neoma looked at him quietly, then said, "You think it makes you less of a man?" He didn't answer. She shook her head gently. "Perhaps what you call a cause is only a shadow of something deeper." Her words were soft, but they landed like truth. That night, Anayo did not sleep. Her calmness confused him, comforted him. First time, someone had listened without judgment. In the days that followed, the palace was different. There was laughter again. The queen noticed the change in her son. His steps were lighter, his eyes less distant. Even the king, who had begun to lose hope, found himself smiling more often. Words spread through Umudike that the prince had finally found peace in the company of the healer's daughter. The market women sang about it as they sold their peppers, and the village drummers beat their talking drums with a new rhythm. Hope had returned to the land, but not everyone was pleased. Some elders whispered that the girls could not be mocked, that no mortal girl could break a curse laid by the spirit. Others, jealous of the healer's growing influence, began to stir up trouble. They claim Nyoma must have used charms to capture the heart of the prince. The king called a private meeting of his council. "My son has suffered enough," he said firmly. "If this girl truly brings him peace, then I will not stop him. But I must be sure. Let the gods themselves decide." So it was announced. Before the union could be approved, Nyoma and the prince would stand before the shrine of Allah, the earth goddess, to swear truth and purity. If either of them hid anything, the gods will reveal it. The night before the ritual, the queen visited Nyoma in her quarters. "My child, my daughter," she said gently, "you are brave, but are you ready? The truth, once spoken before the gods, can never be taken back." Nyoma smiled faintly. "I am ready, my queen. The truth has been my only friend." The next morning, the whole village gathered before the sacred grove. The air was heavy with the scent of burning herbs. The priest, old and bent with age, stepped forward, holding a white cock in one hand and a calabash of river water in the other. "Let truth be spoken today," he declared. "Let the innocent be free, and the deceitful be revealed." Prince Anayo stood tall beside Nyoma, his palms sweating, his heart thundering. The priest turned to him first. "Prince Anayo, heir of King Onovo, do you come before the goddess with a clean heart?" Anayo took a deep breath. "I do." "Then speak your truth." Anayo's voice trembled. "From birth, I have carried a strange condition. It has made me a mockery in my own land. Those who came close to me turned away in fear. I have hidden it in shame, prayed for it to leave me, but it has not. Yet, this woman beside me has looked upon me with no fear. I do not know what power she carries, but for the first time, I no longer feel cursed." A murmur spread through the crowd. The priest turned to Nyoma. "And you, daughter of the healer, what truth do you bring before the goddess?" Nyoma raised her chin slightly. Her voice was calm. "I bring no charm, no spell. I bring only the heart that sees beyond the flesh. The prince's pain is not a curse of the gods, but a test of the heart. Where others saw imperfection, I saw a man learning to be whole again." Her words floated through the groove, soft but strong. The priest nodded and sprinkled the river water between them. The white cock was released. It flapped its wings once, then twice, then perched quietly beside Nyoma, a sign of acceptance. The crowd gasped. The priest raised his staff. "The gods have spoken. This union is pure." The queen covered her face, tears streaming down her face. The king stood speechless. The people began to chant Nyoma's name. For the first time in years, the sound that filled the air was not laughter mocking the prince, but true joy, the kind that rises from deep within the soul. For the first time in many seasons, Prince Anayo's face carried no shame. His eyes were bright, his shoulders firm. He stood tall, before the people. My people, he said, for years I hid from you because I believed I was broken. But today I have learned that what we fear most is often what shapes us. The gods have not cursed me. They have only waited for me to see myself through truth. He turned to Nneoma, his voice soft. He said, and you, Nneoma, have shown me that love is not afraid of what is different. The queen began to weep openly, her tears falling like rain of blessing. The villagers dropped to their knees, chanting his name. That evening, the celebration that had once ended in shame now began again. Drums louder, voices happier. The whole village danced, not just for a wedding, but for freedom from fear. As the moon rose high, Prince Anayo and Nneoma stood together by the throne. Nneoma looked at him and said softly, I love you, my prince. Anayo smiled and said, I love you too, my queen. And as the night breeze carried the sound of drums across the village, a gentle truth settled over Umudike. Love had won, and Prince Anayo had found a perfect match. Wow! What a wonderful story, my listeners. Thank you so much for watching to this moment. I appreciate every one of you that stayed true to our channel. We love you all. Please subscribe to our channel to enjoy the most amazing and beautiful African folk tales that lightens your day. Thank you.